Hey guys, so we finally got a court date for the plagiarism scandal of New Jeans and Illit, January 10th, 2025, next year. And it's become very obvious and very clear why there is a link between Min Hee-jin's demands to cash out her stock options too early in 2024 right now at a loss, rather than waiting until 2025. But before we get into that, I really want to thank Min Hee-jin for opening my eyes to, I don't know if you're ready to hear this. It's not a conspiracy theory. There is plagiarism everywhere in this world. We just have to open our eyes to it. I literally was trying to get dressed this morning and I discovered some plagiarism. Check out the stripes on this shirt. And check out the stripes on this other shirt. They are made by two completely different clothing manufacturers. And I don't know how I didn't see it until now, but this is plagiarism, isn't it? Thank you, Min Hee-jin, for opening my eyes to the conspiracies around us. So this lawsuit over plagiarism claims is not a lawsuit that Min Hee-jin is starting. It's actually a lawsuit that the target of her plagiarism attack, Illit Labs, is launching. And in particular, if you remember, Min Hee-jin kept saying, oh my gosh, Illit is copying us. And I, as Min Hee-jin, was the whistleblower about this situation, and HYBE got so mad at me, that's why they started the audit. You know, in all of the evidence for the audit itself, nowhere did these conversations center around plagiarism. We only started to see some conversations about plagiarism as part of Min Hee-jin's media campaign, smear campaign, trying to discredit HYBE and make the public go against HYBE and sacrifice B-Lift and Illit in the process. There was really no instance of her being so concerned over plagiarism by Illit. And so remember, she used that as the crux of her defense. And now karma is coming back around for her chocolate chips in the cookie, because she just lobbed accusation after accusation, and Illit over in the summertime just said enough is enough. We're gonna sue Min Hee-jin and the ADOR executives for defamation and slander and obstructing business in the tune of 2 billion won, which is about $1.5 to $2 million. But remember how, if there is a situation where Min Hee-jin as the CEO brought damages to ADOR in the amount of 1 billion won or above, her shareholder agreement could automatically be canceled. Yes, HYBE has already gone through the legal steps to remove her as CEO and to cancel the shareholder agreement, but this would be an extra backup. Let's say everything failed with HYBE. If Illit Labs is able to win its lawsuit, then Min Hee-jin's shareholder contract is once again canceled in the eyes of the law. Illit Labs has been complaining that Min Hee-jin has been dragging her heels on responding to this lawsuit, which would essentially get it in motion. And it becomes very clear now why that is a strategic move. Whether intentional or not intentional, we haven't heard yet from her marketing consultants of what she intended to do. But if you look at the situation, it totally makes sense now why she would try to up and hurry her request for her shareholder agreement, which is non-existent, but she still says it is, and to cash out her stock options at a huge valuation loss. Remember, it's about $20 million she would get this year, but had she waited just until January, it'd be about $70 million. Well, if B-Lift Lab wins the lawsuit, which looks like they can easily win, then she would not be eligible for any stock options once again. And so if she delays the start of the lawsuit to 2025 and asks for her stock options now, it's like her only shot. If she waits until 2025 for her stock options and there's a pending lawsuit that could cancel those stock options, then she's really in a risky situation where she's going to end up with nothing. She's still in a situation where she's probably going to end up with nothing, but at least the odds are a little bit better because she doesn't have the definite game over move that B-Lift Lab is putting on the table right now. Now, the reason why this is coming up again is that not only has the judge granted a scheduled date for the start of this lawsuit, it's the first hearing. So literally the start. You'd think like when you file it, it would start. No. In this situation, and I don't know why B-Lift Labs didn't expect this to happen, but it always happens when the guilty party doesn't want to show up to court and they're just trying to drag it out as much as possible and hopefully, hope that she probably hoped that B-Lift Lab would be so damaged that they'd have to drop the lawsuit. It just gives her more options if she's the one that delays. So B-Lift Labs filed a filing with the court saying like, come on, let's get this started. And if Min Hee-jin didn't respond to make it start, then the court actually automatically sides with the filer of the lawsuit without, any hearing whatsoever. I think in that case, the judgment amount is a lot less, but they still win. And maybe that's why they did like 2 billion won, because even if they got 50% of their damages, that would still be enough to kick in the clause of kicking out Min Hee-jin from another route, another stipulation in her contract. So the biggest indication that B-Lift Lab is in the stronger position is that Min Hee-jin has not responded to any of the claims that she put out in terms of putting evidence to the court. All she's been doing is chasing headlines and trying to get public opinion to hate Illit and B-Lift Labs and HYBE, as already documented in her Project 1945. She already gave us the roadmap, and yet people still... Look, whether you're new to the party or late to the party, there were just way too many people at that party hanging on to her words during cocktail hour. So for Min Hee-jin, her game is getting really, really exposed. We already have confirmation from her marketing consultants themselves by name saying that they have done work for Min Hee-jin. And when we look at this Illit situation, what you can get out of it is seeing in action a clear example of another big lesson from the Jezebel Institute of Treachery. And, this school is worldwide. Oh, yes. There are locations and branches everywhere. It is not just limited to Korea. And so I want to show you exactly what media play Min Hee-jin was using in a lot of these schemes, including the plagiarism scandal involving New Jeans. And so I don't want to say that the person who is going to explain this to you is involved whatsoever in the Jezebel Institute of Treachery. I have no evidence that she's part of it or she is even like an adjunct visiting lecturer. I'm not taking any political sides whatsoever. I just think that she actually has a lot of credibility to describe how it works and its existence in this world. And I don't want to say that she actually has used this system from the Jezebel Institute of Treachery, but she explains it extremely well. Take a listen.
Tactic. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, you call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and they'll say, see, it's reported in the press that this, and this. So they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic.
Okay, so if you don't know who that was Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of the House of Representatives. She is a lifelong politician, and even now, I would say she probably ranks within the top 5 politicians in the United States in terms of name recognition, power, and definitely experience. And so what she was saying is that there's a thing called the wrap-up smear, and that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And at its core is that if you want to be the Jezebel doing this, you smear somebody with falsehoods enough to the point, and you target it at the press because your main goal is to have the media report on the falsehoods. So then after it's been reported, you can just recount the media reports of it and no longer have to lie and be accused of you spreading falsehoods. You are just reporting the media's account of the falsehoods. And by doing that over and over again, it creates a situation where it looks like it's reality. If Min Hee-jin falsely claimed that Illit was copying and plagiarizing New Jeans, she only has to do it a few times or suggest it and have the media create a fire around it, and then have everybody, including herself, refer to the media reports, and therefore you create the truth or reality with manipulation that what your falsehoods is now true. Except Min Hee-jin even amped it up a notch, because when Nancy Pelosi was talking about the wrap-up smear, she was mainly targeting mainstream press. What Min Hee-jin also did when we saw like a lot of her bots and paid comments from fake netizens is that it added more fuel for the media to pick up on and say, netizens say this, even though it always looks a little bit suspicious and you can't verify who these netizens are. So essentially, it could be Min Hee-jin just saying these things under the guise of a netizen. And so there you get the validation and legitimacy, and you then, in her words of the former speaker, merchandise the press report on the smear, and it's a tactic, and it even has a name, the wrap-up smear. So if you are the victim and the target of the wrap-up smear, it has a secondary effect that benefits the smearer. You fall into a trap, because we've seen from B-Lift trying to defend itself, it made itself look more guilty in a lot of people's eyes, because once you're in the position of defending something that didn't happen, it is so hard to do. So it doesn't address the core issue, because it doesn't have a real hook to it when you are constantly defending. The allegations, the thing that sticks into your mind, is the actual smear, and that has more power than every little defense that you may try to make. Illit Lab defended itself very, I think, earnestly, transparently, but they didn't have a hook themselves by retaliating back. They did retaliate in some sense of a bit of a shaded way of saying, like, look at all the stuff that New Jeans looks like they copied. And I would say that's only like 50% good, because it still doesn't dislodge in the people's minds the initial accusation that is so strong. And so instead, Illit and Illit should have hit back at New Jeans. But I think when you have such good marketing consultants, is you are mapping out all of the potential responses. And now it's become very clear that Min Hee-jin had front-loaded and blocked every sort of attack that could come back at her from Illit. For example, this is a clear case of bullying, and Illit Lab should have said, like, look, Illit is totally being bullied here. However, Min Hee-jin got in front of that and made those claims that New Jeans was being bullied by Illit's manager. Maybe Illit should have created a unified front against ADOR, because there's so many other artists suffering in that building. But then again, that doesn't look good, because civil war in a company looks bad, and so that's more advantage to Min Hee-jin. Instead, Illit did this very long YouTube video. It was wonderful, but it was received poorly, which again reiterates my point that defense is obviously not an offense. And so sometimes they say the best defense is a good offense. But it didn't look like Illit was playing that game. They didn't want to play that game. It doesn't even seem like it's in the nature of the executives over at Illit. Not saying like, nobody at HYBE is, not combative, or nobody within Illit is not combative, because, there's middle finger creative director. And however, it didn't look like they were playing this, wanting to engage in a dirty game. And that's a bit of a tough situation to be in, because of course everybody says you should be demure, you should be mindful, you should be sticking to the truth, stick to your principles, be patient, the truth will win out. But sometimes you cannot wait that long, or in the meantime, you could get knocked out of the game. And that is exactly what Min Hee-jin said that she was going to do. She was going to destroy HYBE, get the public against them, and create a situation where then she can take over. And so this, I think, in some ways is a really tough choice for Illit Labs to weigh, but overall, they have been consistent and look like they took the long road. And I think they were able to somewhat comfortably take the long road, as long as they know that the chairman, Bang Si-hyuk, would be on their side. So they can afford to take the long road, but it is also a bit of a gamble. However, at the same time, I feel like all of the short-term wins that they could have taken were already blocked by Min Hee-jin. So they had no choice but to double down, I think, in the long-term strategy of, the reorganization of ADOR's board of directors, firing Min Hee-jin from the CEO spot, and instituting the lawsuits, like everything just by the book, slow, calm, and very methodical. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have taken like, a quick jab or a punch. I think they should have, but then I'm kind of going through this and trying to see where they could have took the jabs, and a lot of the obvious jabs had already been blocked by Min Hee-jin. Some examples. Yes, they're copying us. Somebody is following me and stalking me. I'm just a mom. HYBE is anti-artist. I'm just a human. I won the injunction. I am innocent. Illit's manager bullied Honey. So all of these were very strong hooks in the brains of people. And so this is also, a JIT training, is that your message has to have like this hook, kind of like a hook in a song. So, they definitely know that, a melody, a lyric, the one that is the hook of a song is the thing that kind of keeps it in your brain. And so Min Hee-jin definitely realized that. And so a lot of her media campaigns, she was saying that hook. Okay, you say that she's like the sixth member of New Jeans. Well, she was out in the media and she gave herself all the melody hooks. And I'm surprised that B-Lift also didn't kind of go there. At the same time, the B-Lift CEO, in an interview, in a very long interview that he recently made, said that he was constrained because he is one entity within HYBE, and they're not the ones who are the bad guys, so they have to be more demure. They have to be more mindful. Now, if you remember early on the day of Min Hee-jin's April press conference, her first press conference, it looked like HYBE really did try to hit her with a hook, try to hit her with some big thing that would stay in the minds of the public and talk about her shaman connections. It didn't really work because she also countered back really strongly with like these cult allegations. And so she was able to 1-for-1 punch, like any type of hook that came her way, she came up with a stronger hook. And I think after that, HYBE and the rest of the corporate decision makers took a step back from trying to be so like saucy and hooky and be more careful and resolute and play the long game, because of course they can afford the long game. And in some ways that was probably a decision that they had to make, and that was an option on the table for HYBE because they have a lot more money that could sustain a long campaign. I think the real hook that they could have made, and maybe now the public would be a little bit more ready for, is the whole KOOKIE angle, the corruption angle, the Lolita angle. Like, what's she doing? There's already been a lot of reports of the creep factor. And I think that's actually the real hook, but that might even be too big of a hook and too much for the public to handle. And the alternative hook that I was thinking, like just going through all of the options where there was just closed doors being slammed in HYBE's face. First of all, she's being very anti-BTS, but she created an atmosphere saying like, don't hide behind the artist. Okay. Then we can call her out for exploiting New Jeans, but then she created this image, I only care for my daughters. HYBE could have said like, oh, she's so money grubbing. And then she just created this narrative of, I don't care about money. Could say like, she's an abusive boss. So she created this image of, I'm an underdog woman surviving in a misogynistic corporate world. So really at this point, I'm thinking like, if you're going through the game strategy over at HYBE, you're really just, hey, forced to be the better person and wait for the truth to win out, but wondering if you can afford to wait for the truth. And especially now that we've seen as the fight has gone more desperate, it's become a little bit clearer, like the veil has been lifted a bit on her helpers, especially the bunny uncles. And it looks like she has some backing, and focusing on the bunny uncles, I would think like, okay, that's a good thing. But then at the same time, you might be rattling too many bunny uncles, and then really trigger a war that actually is at a larger scale than HYBE can actually sustain. It can easily make a decision to sustain the long game with Min Hee-jin and her backers. But it may not be a smart move to wage a long war with an active war against Min Hee-jin's backers. So then again, it's hard to counter that move. This person, this new Jeans Mama, has not been not doing anything. Yes, like, where's the new music? Where's the new songs? Where's the new videos? Where's the new choreography? Where's even just practicing the choreography? But she has been working. So this is not a normal playbook for normal people to take a lesson from, because if you're going to take the playbook of Illit Labs, that's a very long game and most people can't survive the long game. That's why a lot of the Jezebels can win, especially if they can do a hit and run and, do like a game over in a couple of rounds. They can totally win a lot based on that. But you can see karma is just circling back. And so even the parents, so she definitely got the parents of New Jeans involved, but we don't hear about the parents of all the other groups. But I was thinking like, okay, well, maybe you can get the parents of the other groups, but then you also don't want to create like this mafia of parents who can then just like turn on you for other things down the line. And so I could see how HYBE would back off on that. Investors of HYBE, to spread out, I think 40% are minor shareholders, so that's not enough of a hook. I think now that the public has gotten more of a 360-degree view of this, we need to come back. If you really still want to, see like what can the hook be? Here are some now ideas that I think have become percolating in my mind as potential avenues. Number one, find the shaman. Find the shaman, or at least say we need to find the shaman in order to complete the audit, whether that's true or not. Because the only thing that anecdotally, when I was talking to somebody who definitely had bunny tendencies, narcissistic tendencies, and was a supporter of Min Hee-jin, the only thing that really flipped the switch where she went anti-Min Hee-jin was the shaman issue. So I think that's a perennial thing, and that has definitely gotten hooks. What kind of voodoo was you using with this shaman on all of the other artists in HYBE? Secondary hook, we have to protect the artist from Min Hee-jin and her shaman. We must protect the artist. So I think HYBE in all of the sub-labels that have been affected by Min Hee-jin should just be honest about it and say in a unified voice, we must protect our artists from Min Hee-jin. And if they want to go a little saucier, say like, we need to protect our artists from Min Hee-jin and her shaman, and the sacrifice that she is doing with this situation, kind of alluding to child sacrifice. I don't know if they want to kind of, really go all the way over there, but that essentially has this really creepy vibe of she doesn't care about children and their well-being, their innocence, their youth, their development into fully functioning adults. It really is. You got to protect. Like if I was one of the Illit's parents, I would go out there and say, we must protect our child from being sacrificed by Min Hee-jin and her shaman. These plagiarism claims, they are so ridiculous, especially the people who repeat it or are asking Illit Labs continuously to justify how they're innocent. I mean, let's start to go into some of this long interview. And so the interview that happened was with the CEO of B-Lift Labs Kim Tae-ho with Osen. And he actually had to start off the interview justifying the fonts, the circles, the design of like a PowerPoint. I had to justify why would it look so similar to Min Hee-jin's. First of all, it wasn't, and apparently it had been photoshopped even by some of the media. And even if it were the same, I honestly think it should be the same. Once you're at a corporate level, like if it was supposed to be more of a HYBE type of like representing HYBE, and if there's like a stable of PowerPoint templates that the company wants you to use, every corporation has a style guide. You can't just like come up with your own, MySpace design template and be like, okay, well, I'm going to do my corporate presentation on this. It has to have a unified corporate look. You can't do that. So in any event, it should lean towards the template. I mean, even the media asking that, then I would ask the media, well, why are you copying other reporters by putting a headline on your story and then putting the name of the reporter underneath the headline? That looks like it's copying. And not to mention, then you have a photo underneath that before you start your article? How are you not copying? It's a template. It's a professionally standardized procedure. He had to actually defend that. So the content itself, it seems so stupid because he's reiterated before, and this is also why it doesn't sync, because it's not fun. It doesn't have a hook. If you're looking at it from a very legal perspective, he's really making strong legal arguments. The document that they supposedly copied was released before the incident where they were able, okay. See, even describing it gets you into loopholes. But really what it comes down to is almost as if like Min Hee-jin says she's pregnant after she had the baby. Like the baby that she had, she said she's pregnant after the baby had been delivered. And so this document had been delivered in July, and then Min Hee-jin accused Illit and B-Lift Labs of copying her document from August. So like a month and a half, 2 months after they already delivered their baby, they already delivered their document. She's saying that Illit copied while Illit was that B-Lift was in pregnancy with, coming up with ideas, but their baby had already been delivered. Now, this next example, I think, shows how Min Hee-jin is just luring them into traps. Like, for example, there was this whole accusation about creator versus influencer. Like, we used creator and they used influencer. It's the same thing. This makes no sense. Even if it were the same thing, there is no reason for ADOR to accuse them of copying, because the original within the whole HYBE family was BTS. BTS, you can call them creators, you can call them influencers, whatever. They were making this social media content, and basically the stance is, or the strategy is, that you want to see your idols in real, natural settings, whether they do their own social media, whether they're editing it all weird, like, not perfect. So it's supposed to be the not perfect, but real and authentic image. And BTS already established that is something that if you can do it, if your artist can do it well, that you should definitely do. But they were just like arguing about like, oh, well, an influencer is more of the polished version of the social media face of an artist. And then the creator is just kind of like, it doesn't matter how it looks. First of all, that is just a debate that is just a waste of time. Now, here is a potential hook for B-Lift. When the Illit CEO was asked about, there's accusations that Illit was treated better than everybody else because Bang Si-hyuk helped with the development. But it was the complete opposite. Again, these lies coming out of Min Hee-jin. And he actually, thank goodness, gave a very concrete example of how it was actually New Jeans who've been getting the princess treatment from the beginning. And we even saw evidence from all of the documents we've seen behind the scenes that Bang Si-hyuk was very closely involved with the development of New Jeans and then dropped out even before Min Hee-jin could enact her plan to push Bang Si-hyuk out of the development. And so it makes no sense. And so the example that he gave, and one that I think would start to hook in people's minds, is that New Jeans had their own hair and makeup studio. Nobody else did. Everybody else has to share a hair and makeup studio and make appointments, whereas New Jeans in their second year already had their own dedicated space. And he alluded that, that doesn't make people feel good. He said whether it's discrimination or special treatment, the members of within HYBE, people in HYBE are well aware of it, which basically means like we're all giving it the side glance because that is special treatment. And most likely, I doubt 100% of the people in HYBE are demure and mindful, although it seems like a lot of them are. But that kind of move in any company, whether it's Korea or anywhere, brings kind of like this jealous eye, evil eye, on like why they get their own private, studio. We have to put up with it. So there's a lot of resentment. There's a lot of probably resentment in that HYBE building. And I think they need to lean into that with other instances of how New Jeans is so not appreciative and that they are acting like kids with golden spoons. This is how you get more towards the hook in Korean people's minds, is that if you can associate the New Jeans girls as spoiled princesses with a golden spoon, making so much money that they wouldn't be able to have done whatsoever without HYBE, and that how ungrateful they're acting and how bullying they are, that's the hook. Especially now, I'm glad that he's being a little bit more open about the effects of this situation on Illit. I know that's probably something that he's had to talk to the Illit members about or be careful about, because it seems like they're extremely conscientious, almost too conscientious to a point where, they might be like, why aren't you out there defending us? But then on the other hand, he's getting these messages of like, why are you creating a ruckus when things have been dying down? And he even said like, look, we tried that. We tried to stay quiet, classy, and demure, but stuff got worse. And that's the reason why I think bullying sometimes is so easy in Korea, is because too many people fall for that line of, why are you making a fuss? Like, if you're the victim, people will tell you to stop making a fuss, stop bringing this up, stop creating conflict, when you're just trying to defend yourself, maybe even create boundaries, or just get somebody to understand what you've been going through. Immediately you're shut down, saying like, why are you creating so much of a fuss? Why are you creating an embarrassing atmosphere? And so these members of Illit had to suffer in silence. Even the CEO seems like he's had to suffer in silence. And he said that, look, it looks like that, these girls were even scared to go on stage. And he said that if they can't get over this, like if this really traumatizes them, it's something that he will not be able to get over till the day he dies. He's hoping that this situation, the silver lining, would be that the Illit girls are going to become even stronger artists, better artists, and definitely if they go through this, in some ways it could be a blessing in disguise. However, it's also, even if you're having a blessing in disguise, you don't have to make somebody suffer so much in silence. Okay, like even if the public completely embraces Illit, they're still gonna be suffering this blessing in disguise. So I think it is a great thing that the CEO is speaking up on behalf of his artists, because he has to protect his artists, and he has a reputation to uphold as well, that if something like this happens, what is the CEO going to do? The worst thing I would see if I were a parent of any of these idol groups, and if the CEO was sort of being like, oh, well, I don't want to make a ruckus. People have told me not to make a ruckus. I'd be like, no. If there's a police person that you really need the protection of, and they're just like, well, I don't want to make a ruckus. I don't want to stop that murderer because, that might create a ruckus. I'd be like, no, gone. Now, there may be a hidden card as well over at B-Lift. I'm telling you, that saucy middle finger lace glove creative director. Oh yes, she has thrown off that glove, put some rocks in it, and batted it down on the table with her own lawsuit against Min Hee-jin. So Min Hee-jin, just from these two people, the CEO of B-Lift and the creative director, facing two major lawsuits. And the creative director hasn't spoken up directly about the lawsuit. We know about the lawsuit because the CEO of B-Lift Lab, in the same interview that we just went over, revealed that this was the case. And of course, this creative director would be so angry, and I get the sense that she is having to hold back big time, and I hope she's able to express, get out her anger through the lawsuit, although it really doesn't work that way a lot. Like, it's a lot less satisfying, and it's not really the place for it. So I think she needs a little bit, creatively direct your anger with more saucy Instagram posts, and then also just focus on Illit and the other groups in hyphen underneath B-Lift Labs, and just win in the K-pop game. Because the one advantage that is clear that all the other labels who have been victims of Min Hee-jin have right now is that they can focus on their artists, they can focus on the music game, and they have been producing and outputting a lot of amazing projects. And I mean, how would Min Hee-jin have felt seeing Jin on like all the panels of the Times Square billboard? Amazing, cool. And Hyphen looks cool too with their new music. And definitely Illit looking good. Le Seraphim looking good, even though that's Source. And yes, the New Jeans girls recently won some award, but it looked like they were copying their performance. Like, here, why don't you take a look? I think they were copying, you guys. It looks really, really suspiciously copied. And you guys, like I said in the beginning of this video, I do have to thank Min Hee-jin for opening my eyes to this grand conspiracy theory that's taken over this world where there's so much plagiarism going on. It's everywhere. Trust me, it's everywhere. All right, guys, what do you think? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.